Welcome back to the Morning Kickoff Show. I'm your host, Matt Witt, and we are back to cover Minnesota Vikings football. The Minnesota Vikings this week, week 8, will take on the Arizona Cardinals at home, the 3-4 Arizona Cardinals, Sunday, 12 o'clock Central Time on Fox. The Minnesota Vikings are 3.5-point favorites in this game and are looking to continue their win streak off of the bye week. The Arizona Cardinals are coming off of a pretty stunning performance against the New Orleans Saints last week, a stunning defensive performance, I should say here, where the Minnesota Vikings are looking to continue the streak against an NFC opponent, and the Arizona Cardinals are looking to turn their season around after a pretty disappointing 3-4 start for the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals, despite their under 500 record, we know that the Cardinals do have a lot of talent. DeAndre Hopkins is back, and outside of that, I mean, they just added Robbie Anderson on top of AJ Green and Rondell Moore. Marquise Brown might be out, but he's going to be coming back soon. The run game, James Conner should be back this week. I mean, it goes without saying that at this point in the season, it's still relatively early. You shouldn't just look at record as much as talent, because teams like Arizona could turn their season around. And that's why I just want to say, do not underestimate the Cardinals in this game. It might be a home game. The Vikings might be 3.5-point favorites, but at the end of the day, this is the Cardinals team who is very loaded with talent. On top of this, Cliff Kingsbury, he's looking to turn his season around. Their offense has not been as good as we were expecting to this point in the season. And just like the Vikings pretty much is where I'll put the Arizona Cardinals here, where both teams are coming off of a win where it was due to their dominant defensive performance and run game. Both the Vikings beat Miami with a dominant defensive performance and run game, and so did Cardinals against the Saints last week. Now, even with that being said, both offenses are loaded with talent, and this is why going into this game, looking at the teams, yes, the Minnesota Vikings are the heavy favored to win in this matchup, but don't get ahead of yourselves, Minnesota Vikings fans. The Cardinals is not going to be another bye week, is what a lot of people are saying, and that's what I want to mention here. Arizona Cardinals injury report. Fortunately for the Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings were able to be 100% healthy going into this game up to this point. I mean, it's only to the 27th. We still have a couple days of practicing, but right now the Vikings are fully healthy in this game, other than the players on IR due to coming off of our bye week. The Cardinals have a lot of injuries, unfortunately, with 3 players in their starting offensive line. DJ Humphries, one of the most underrated players in the league, is questionable to play in this game. He did not participate with a back injury. Max Garcia, who's their starting left guard, has struggled this season so far, is suffering with a shoulder injury and did not participate this week. Rodney Hudson, the all-pro center, also did not participate with a shoulder injury, or did not participate with a back injury, I mean to say. James Conner, who's missed some games for them now. James Conner is expected to play in this game. He was limited this week, which is a upgrade from being absent the last couple of games with their offense. And then onto the defensive side of the ball, they have 3 starters who've been injured. Dennis Garnett, questionable to play with a ankle injury, did not participate this week. Jalen Thompson, their solid safety, did not participate with a calf injury. And Matt Prater did participate, limited participant, with a right hip injury. The Cardinals did recently acquire Rodrigo Blankenship from the Indianapolis Colts, and if Matt Prater doesn't play in this game, then we could see him step up. And if James Conner doesn't play in this game, Eno Benjamin has been elite for them, and this random Eno Benjamin kid has been lighting up defenses like we saw last week against the Saints, as I mentioned earlier. But I would expect both James Conner and Matt Prater to be back in this game, despite missing the last week and last couple of weeks. So what should the Minnesota Vikings change against the Arizona Cardinals? Going into the bye week, I mentioned how, yes, we're 5-1 and we are on track to being the number 2 seed in the NFC right now, and number 2 overall in the entire NFL. Okay, let's be honest. There's a lot we need to improve before we can consider ourselves Super Bowl teams. We cannot be one of those teams who gets to a hot start in the early part of the season and falls apart. I mean, we cannot be that. We have to continue to go with this wave and continue to improve as the season goes, because every year there are teams who have a good start and not a good finish, and it just doesn't feel good going into the offseason. I would much rather be 5-1 in the second half of the season than in the first half of the season, because at least then going into the offseason, there's a lot of hope with your team. What can the Minnesota Vikings do to continue this stride? They have to improve on both sides of the ball. And this goes without saying. And I first want to mention here, how can the Minnesota Vikings improve on offense? Because I feel like this is the one that we can improve the most on. Yes, our defense, I believe our defense has been the most has been the most disappointing, I should say, up to this point in the season. At the end of the day, I think our offense is what can improve the most. And this is what I really have to focus on here. Pass the dang ball. Look at Kirk Cousins. He's playing at an all-pro level this season. Now, obviously, he's likely going to make a Pro Bowl. He's probably not going to be the MVP conversation because it's Kirk Cousins. But he's 5-1. This is one of the best, if not the best, starts to his entire career. Maybe not statistically, but record-wise, it's been the best start to his career. And he has struggled in some games when Justin Jefferson's been double-teamed and he's been under pressure. Of course, he has struggled in some games, but you have to put the ball into his hands. And that's why the biggest thing on offense, you got to pass the ball. Look at this matchup right now. The Vikings are playing an Arizona Cardinals defense who is similar to the Minnesota Vikings defense, gives up a lot of passing yards, but is great at turning the ball over. And this is what we saw with the Vikings, and this is what we see with the Cardinals. You can pass all over both of these defenses, but you can't make mistakes because they capitalize on those mistakes. I mean, looking at the Arizona Cardinals defense specifically, Isaiah Simmons and Budda Baker are all over the field all game long. You can't predict where these players are going to be. You have to have money passes. You have to be dropping dimes to your receivers. And luckily for Kirk Cousins, he has a good track record of home noon games for the Minnesota Vikings. He just does. And now with it being a home noon game, you got to put the ball into his hands. And last year when we played the Arizona Cardinals, this is what we struggled on, was being able to pass throughout their defense. And this is what came down to the final play against Arizona, where the Minnesota Vikings lost against Arizona last week in what was, in my opinion, the worst loss of the entire season. Oh, that's tough, though. There was a lot of bad losses. One of the worst losses, I believe it was week 2, the Minnesota Vikings allowed way too many passing yards to the Arizona Cardinals and were unable to move the ball offensively as well. And it came down to a Greg Joseph field goal where he missed a chip shot and the Vikings lost. A very typical Vikings loss right there. But now we're in the bank. Now we're at home. You gotta pass the ball. Kirk Cousins is playing at an all-pro level. Now, he should be a Pro Bowler this season, but like I mentioned, he might not be in the MVP conversation. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. He's not that guy, but he is in Minnesota. And for that reason, Justin Jefferson against Byron Murphy Jr. Byron Murphy's been a great corner throughout the entire career, but Justin Jefferson's been an excellent wide receiver. You got to go to him if he's not double teamed, if he's triple teamed. You can go to other guys. Looking at Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne. Adam Thielen is still one of the best receivers over the age of 30. KJ Osborne's having a breakout season, and they're going up against scrubs. I'm just going to be honest. Marco Wilson and Trayvon Mullen are just okay. And this is not my opinion. This is just facts. Looking at all of our matchups right here. Justin Jefferson should get the better of Byron Murphy. Adam Thielen should get the better of Marco Wilson, and KJ Osborne should get the better of Trayvon Mullen. I don't believe there is any arguing this, that our receiving core should get the better of this defense. Now, like I mentioned, they're going to try to get to Kirk Cousins to have him make mistakes. This has been the problem with Kirk Cousins, has been going through his reads, and I feel like a lot of people have been asking Kirk Cousins to get really risky, which great. Sometimes he makes some way too risky shots where he's throwing the ball into double, triple covered, which has turned the ball over, and this has ruined the Vikings, ruined the Vikings offense in many different weeks. And I feel like, in my opinion, it's great that we're asking Kirk Cousins to be risky, but we're not asking Kirk Cousins to be risky by making stupid mistakes. So for that reason, against the Arizona Cardinals defense, like I mentioned, Isaiah Simmons, Budda Bakers, these guys are all over the field all game long. When you make mistakes, they're going to turn the ball over. And Jalen Thompson as well, you can throw him into the mix. I mean, you can throw that Zaven Collins guy into the mix. I know he hasn't lived up to his first-round draft pick, but he was a first-round draft pick. Maybe he has a breakout game like Rondale Moore did against us last year against the Arizona Cardinals. Sticking on to Rondale Moore, because this brings me on to my other thing on the defensive side of the ball. More cover 3. Okay, I know how angry a lot of the Minnesota Vikings fans are when I say, this game you're going to have to play zone coverage. I mean, zone, it's been very bad for us, but just like the Arizona Cardinals, yes, we give up a lot of passing yards, but we turn the ball over. And this is what we did last week against Miami. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I believe, combined for like 360 receiving yards on our defense, but our defense had like 4 turnovers or something like that. So the defense turns the ball over. In this game, you cannot have the same performance you did last year against the Arizona Cardinals, where Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore ran past your corners all game long. I mean, you made AJ Green look like primetime Julio Jones last year. Now, Christian Kirk isn't on the roster anymore, but they do have DeAndre Hopkins back into the mix. I mean, he's still in the top 10 receivers. I believe that all of us can agree on that. Maybe we forget how good DeAndre Hopkins is, and maybe he's not as good as he used to be. I don't know what the case is. We just simply haven't seen him play because he was suspended. He's back into this game, and this is why I believe the Vikings should be playing cover 3 for 2 reasons. You can't have the receivers run past you all game long like they did last year, and you can't have Kyler Murray scramble all game long like he did last year. So looking at this Vikings defense, like I mentioned before, I believe that the Vikings defense has probably been has I don't want to say disappointing because they've definitely done exactly what I thought that they were going to do. We'll say the Vikings defense has struggled more than the Vikings offense this season, in my opinion. With that being said, I believe the Vikings offense has a lot more improvement to go, just simply because I believe our Vikings offense has a very, very, very high ceiling. I believe we can be the best offense in the league. Now, yes, I might be biased saying that, but I seriously think that we can be. Our Vikings defense, if they continue to turn the ball over like they've been doing, perfect. Giving our offense great field position is exactly what we're asking the Vikings defense to do, because that's their job. Looking at it, I believe that the Vikings defense likely will struggle in this game, just simply because our secondary has struggled in just about every opponent that we've played. Put turnovers aside, our Vikings defense has simply let up too many yards to opposing offenses. And I believe in this game, if you do run cover 3, this is your best option. You're not allowing them to run past you and get beat deep all game long, and you're not going to let Kyler Murray scramble against you all game long. You just have to have the edge rushers in a position where Kyler Murray just can't run on the outside every time. It's not asking for a whole lot. I believe Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter will fit perfectly, will be the perfect fit for this Minnesota Vikings defense against the Arizona Cardinals, if that makes sense. They're great edge rushers, and they should be very good against the run in this matchup. I mean, last year, Danielle Hunter did a great job against Kyler Murray to stop him from running on the outside against us. And Zadarius Smith is just Zadarius Smith. I mean, anybody that thought that Zadarius Smith wasn't going to be playing at all-pro level this year has really shut up, because Zadarius Smith may be the best free agent signing in the entire league. I mean, it just shows. Zadarius Smith is still Zadarius Smith. Looking at it, Minnesota Vikings, those are my 2 things that I asked. Pass the ball. And when I say pass the ball, I don't mean screen passes. I mean throwing beyond the sticks. Throw beyond the sticks, pass the ball, put the ball into Kirk Cousins' hands, and please, please, please run a cover 3. You might still let up a lot of yards. You might still let up too many yards. But at the end of the day, as long as Kyler Murray isn't scrambling against you all game long, at least as long as you're not letting Rondale Moore run past you like he did last year, and as long as you're not letting AJ Green look like primetime Julio Jones, you should be in a good position to win this game. Now, bold prediction of the week for the Minnesota Vikings. Adam Thielen will have a multi-touchdown game. 1 year ago, this would not have been a bold prediction at all, because Adam Thielen was Adam T.D. Lin last year. This year so far, Adam Touchdown Thielen has 2 touchdowns in 7 weeks. Or, well, we'll say 6 weeks because we had a bye week. In 6 games, Adam Thielen has 2 touchdowns. I believe that this is going to be the game where we finally realize that Adam Thielen is likely the most reliable player in the red zone. I'm just going to be completely honest here. We've tried giving it to Irv Smith Jr. in the red zone. Hasn't worked a lot. We've tried giving it to Justin Jefferson in the red zone, and yes, it's worked a lot of the times. Let's be honest, every defense is designed to stop Justin Jefferson, so in the red zone, you got a lot of eyes on Justin Jefferson. On top of this, looking at our other offensive weapons, you gotta go to Thielen in the red zone. Please give Thielen more targets on 3rd down and in the red zone, because he is that guy. And I did not expect going into this season that Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen was not going to have the same bond or the same connection. We'll say that they did the last couple of seasons. Now, obviously, the coaching changes a lot of things on your Vikings offense, but I really thought that Thielen was going to get more targets than he has up to this point. Is it because Kirk Cousins isn't going through his reads? Is it because we're not designing plays for Thielen? I don't know, but just please at least try to get it to Thielen in the red zone, because he should be getting more touchdowns than he's been getting. Just 2 in 6 weeks is not usual for Adam Touchdown Thielen into this game, multi-touchdown game. And for the final prediction for the Minnesota Vikings, Minnesota 24, Arizona 23. I've hyped up my Minnesota Vikings in this game. I believe off of our bye week, this was a great turning point for the Vikings. Now, I say turning point. We did start out the season 5-1. There is a lot to improve going forward. And I believe in this game, the Vikings will still barely sneak in a win. A win is a win. Vikings find weird ways to win. And I believe in this game, it's going to come down to Arizona attempting a two-point conversion, and they're not going to get it. And that'll give the Vikings the win. A 1-point victory over Arizona at home. Likely won't be as good as we were hoping, but still, I think that the Vikings offense just has to do better in this game. They have to improve after this bye week. Whatever it is, whether you're going to Adam Thielen in the red zone more, whether you're figuring out a way to let Kirk Cousins move outside the pockets. I don't know what it is, but the Vikings offense has to have a bounce back week from what they did last week against, or 2 weeks ago against Miami Dolphins. Last game, I should say. But with that being said, let me know any of your thoughts. Do you agree with any of my opinions that I mentioned in this? Or do you think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to lose this game, win the game by how much? Let me know what y'all think.